Welcome everyone to today's webinar about Rapid MOM. My name is Robbert Ottenhof. I'm a managing consultant with ATS Supply Tech Systems. We'll be hosting today's webinar. I'll give it, well, I'll say 2 more minutes for a couple more people to trickle in, and then we'll get started here. I would like to ask that if you come across any questions during my presentation, then please feel free to use the chat functionality of the GoToMeeting to key in those questions, and then we'll be able to address them towards the end of the webinar. And that way, I'll just keep going through the story. It is a fairly short webinar, I think, scheduled for 45 minutes. So it shouldn't take too long. And that's also because it's Rapid MOM, of course. So let's give it just 1 more minute, and then we'll get started here. All right, since we only got 45 minutes today, let's better get started. So everyone just joining, and again, my name is Robbert Ottenhof. I am an MOM managing consultant with ATS Supply Tech Systems. I'm based out of the Hartford area, Connecticut, in the United States. And I'll be hosting today's webinar about digitalization that can improve operational efficiencies for small and medium-sized enterprises in the Rapid MOM way, actually. So this is going to be very interesting, obviously. Again, I would like to ask you that in case you have any questions, just feel free to use the chat functionality of the GoToMeeting. Key in your questions as we go. I'll be able to address them towards the end of the webinar in about, I would say, 40 minutes from now. All right, thank you very much for being here with us this afternoon. Let's get started here. And so just really quick, ATS is the independent solution provider for smart digital transformation, where we really use our experience to provide you with your success and stay competitive going forward in the manufacturing area. Brief overview, a couple of key facts about ATS being a global company, as you can see here on the world map. All our office locations, in total over 30 years of leadership in smart automation, and we aim for a double-digit growth year on year, and I'm pretty proud to be able to say that we've been able to achieve that so far, and definitely aiming that for the near future. Currently a team of over 1,100 people, of which over 85% is consultant or in an engineering role. To date, we had the pleasure to serve over 4,000 customers worldwide. We're very proud of that. And we do this out of our more than 50 offices in over 25 countries across the globe. But more so, we do this from our customer location, as we work a lot on site, being a real partner to our clients. And that is actually part of the reason why we have been selected by Gartner as the global MES MOM consulting provider with system integration capabilities as well. And this is based on both 2018 and 2019 Gartner Market Guide. Obviously, we're quite proud of that. And on the bottom, you see some of our key focus areas, automation and IT. So we are very familiar with both OT, operational technology, as well as IT, and the integration of both layers. Obviously, a lot through MES, MOM, which is the key topic for today, But we also serve the area of PLM. We do quality management, partially through our own series of products in the ATS ADAS suite. And then we also support supply chain management and, of course, smart manufacturing and Industry 4.0. So far about ATS as a company, let's take a look at small and mid-sized enterprises in the manufacturing industry today. What are their business needs? Well, as you can see, we have summed up a list on this slide that I'm showing to you right now, with basically a set of common needs that we come across, no matter which client we talk to, and it's actually also pretty much cross-industry, where we always find the same set of requirements and business needs. And the first one is to ensure product quality as well as reduction of risk of errors in production. Very important, of course, to produce a quality product for our customer, and we have to be able to ensure that going forward. Actually, we need to be able to improve these things. The second thing is being able to meet regulatory and traceability needs. Both tie into each other, obviously, because with all those regulations put upon us nowadays by regulatory bodies and governments across the globe, we see more and more needs for traceability of the products that we produce nowadays, correct? And this is an ever increasing trend. This will never go down. The number of regulations is only going to increase going forward, and it's very important that we'll be able to keep on track with that. The third here is the improvement of efficiency and the reduction of cycle times. Why is this important? Well, think about the manufacturing equipment and all the resources that you currently have in your production facilities. If you think about it, the capacity of all those resources is finite. So in order to be able to scale up volumes, we have to be more efficient in dealing with these resources and their finite capacity. So this is definitely an important focus area. And then going on to delivery of products on time to our customers, because at the end of the day, that's all that the customer is seeing. Did you deliver on time, or were you late? Were you late again? Oh no. So this is all a matter of perception, and we have to put very high, if not highest, priority to that. Reduction of waste and scrap. I think it's really important to always keep that in mind, because the more we can reduce waste and scrap, the more we can reduce those overhead costs and ultimately improve our margin, as you can see on the bottom. And then the last topic for today is we gotta support efficient product customization, especially in a make to order and engineer to order context, and also accelerate new product introduction. This is very important because we want to stay on track, if not ahead, with our competition, right? So we have to be able to put new products to market as soon as possible. And we also would like to be able to provide product customization to our customer as much as possible, because again, this is visible to the customer. Now, these are the business needs of small and medium-sized enterprises, but if you think about it again, actually, these are business needs also for large enterprises. So what's the difference is I hear you asking this question. The difference here is that the needs are the same, but from an investment standpoint, larger enterprises typically have a much larger budget to invest digitalization initiatives than small and medium-sized enterprises, and so therefore it might look more as a burden to even think about any digitalization or innovation for small and medium-sized enterprises. And that's basically the core of the story today, and why Rapid MOM is such a good concept. So let's take a quick look at the business process that we take as kind of a foundation for the Rapid MOM, or also referred to as you can see here, Foundation MOM. So this is MOM obviously stands for Manufacturing Operations Management. It has nothing to do with anyone's mother, but the Foundation MOM is the main focus, and as you can see here, it's built up based on pretty straightforward all everyday manufacturing operations, which starts with some preparation process and the creation of a work order, which is basically instructions coming from our front office, typically coming out of an ERP system, and that flows into the Foundation MOM. And in the Foundation MOM, we would then use that work order and start it to be able to register all kinds of transactions and other events that happen during our manufacturing process. And this is really the key here, that we're able to register all these things in a single system immediately in a digital manner. So think about it, paperless, right? And which then helps us to build up, for example, traceability. It provides us real-time insight in our production. So where are we at today? Are we on track? Are we actually behind? Do we need to do something to be able to make our numbers for today? But also, what about our quality? How are we doing on quality? Yes, we meet the numbers in terms of quantity, but how is our quality doing? I mean, if we produce a lot, but our quality is not good, then at the end of the day, the production yield is not very high. So definitely a very important thing, and that's why it's here outlined in red. These transactions are part of the Foundation MOM. So this is typically the business process that is, as I said, the foundation to build up the Rapid MOM solution, and the different components and functionality that this Foundation MOM has to contain, as I would almost say a bare minimum, but I would rather like to call it a framework, MOM or MES solution. How would that look like? What do we address? What does the solution look like then for small and mid-sized enterprises? Well, we start off with this, as I mentioned before, the foundation or the framework. Think about it as a framework solution, where one of the first things that we will achieve is a paperless manufacturing. No paperwork on the shop floor, no paper reports, no manual data entry at the end of the day, or maybe even the next day by some kind of data clerk in the front office, which is definitely going to reduce both effort and key mistakes and all this kind of errors that we'd rather prevent by entering data directly in the system. There are, I would say, 4 focus areas for a Foundation MOM based on the process that I showed you a minute ago. And the first one is production process and flow control. So this is all based on definition of the manufacturing process by means of what are the operations and how do those manufacturing operations come together and make a manufacturing process that ultimately produces our final product. All right. So this is mainly done by managing work orders or production orders within the Foundation MES system. The next focus area is material management, and mainly to trace all the material consumptions that take place during the manufacturing day. Because if we trace all the material consumptions and we register them against those work orders, then at the end of the day we know which components we use to build a certain final assembly, for example. This is a discrete example. We could also think which ingredients were used to build, for example, a certain batch of final materials. If you think about food and beverage, a certain lot of materials, or even down to the pallet, or sometimes even a case level where you can trace back and forth, all based on material consumption registration. It's not only that, it's also the usage of tools, for example, torque tools, but also from a discrete standpoint, validation of the assembly of the critical components is obviously key. So your foundation MOM is able to validate that based on the bill of materials, all the critical components have been assembled in the correct sequence and in the correct position. This is again a discrete example. If you think about process industry, then it's a validation of typically the recipes. So have you put all the ingredients into this specific batch? Maybe it's a batch of dough, or maybe it's a batch of a soda, for example. Did you put in all the ingredients? Did you put it in the right order? Did you, in between those ingredients, mix those ingredients according to the recipe? All these kind of things are being taken into account in material management. And then this flows into the next focus area, which is genealogy, because of course, based on the material consumptions, we will be able to build up the genealogy both backward and forward, right? So at the end of the day, when we walk up to a pallet or we walk up to a final assembly, this has a pallet ID or a final assembly ID or discrete manufacturing serial numbers, right? We will be able to, based on those IDs or serial numbers, go into the system and trace back all the way to the raw material, to the ingredients or to the components to see, okay, based on this final assembly or based on this box of hot dogs or this case of bread rolls, we're able to trace back and see these were the ingredients that were used, these were the components that were used, and then go the other way around based on these components. Okay, when were they received and from which vendor did we get them and who actually received them? What were the quality results when we received these goods and put them in our raw material or component inventory? So this is all the traceability that is foundation MOM is actually keeping track of. And then last but not least, non-conformance management. And I would say this is more geared towards discrete manufacturing, I do admit that, where we will be able to trace defects. But at the same time, if you think about process industry, right, for example, food and beverage, we also need to be able to log our quality issues, because again, think about one of the business needs, regulatory compliance. We have to be able to register our quality issues and also be able to show this was the corrective action that we took against it. So that is just for regulatory purposes, but at the same time, if we trace all our defects and quality issues, we start to see trends. And based on those trends, we will be able to get an insight into, okay, so from an improvement standpoint, what should I look at first? Which items or which topics do I need to prioritize? So this is both from an external standpoint as well as from an internal standpoint, and self-improvement is a very important topic. And that's why Foundation MOM also addresses the performance management. Now we talk a little bit about Foundation MOM, and obviously you've already seen those other boxes surrounding that foundation. Because what do those mean? Well, if you have a Foundation MOM, that is an extremely good starting point for a framework solution. But typically with a framework solution, it's meant to build on top of, it's meant to last for years. It's an investment and we want to have a return of that investment. So it's not just some IT tool that we just introduce and then leave behind. This Foundation MOM is a framework that we use to build on top on and that we use to expand. And because of that, we get smarter. And that's how we actually ultimately reach smart manufacturing, integrating with different systems that might already exist nowadays in your manufacturing sites, or that might be on the roadmap for the near future, or maybe even the mid or long term. Typical, I think the most common one is an ERP system, so which handles all your purchase orders and your sales orders, and which would be capable of generating production requests, so to say, that can then be shared with Foundation MOM, for example. So that is the integration between the ERP and the Foundation MOM. But not only that, it's bidirectional, right? So once we have produced certain final assemblies, or once we produce a certain batch or a lot of food items, for example, then we will update the ERP system also from our Foundation MOM. We will tell the ERP system, this is the quantity that has been produced, this is the quality, and this is the location where I put it. And in that way, we update the ERP system in real time, and that gives you real-time insight in inventory levels. Another integration point is product lifecycle management. There's always typically rich information about products, production processes, recipes, and so on and so forth available from such type of system that we'll definitely, so to say, be very interested in from a Foundation MOM standpoint. However, then I would also consider all these integration as second or subsequent phase, right? So the goal here is to get in our Foundation MOM, because only in that way we can do it in a rapid way, the Rapid MOM way. Other integrations that you see here is APS, so Advanced Planning and Scheduling. And this can be very helpful because yes, ERP has some type of planning that comes with it typically, but to do a detailed scheduling on plant level and being able to actually address, for example, unexpected events and so on and so forth, advanced scheduling is going to help you out tremendously. So those are the connections on the top. Now, as far as the connections on the bottom here goes, it would be connections with, for example, CNC machines on the shop floor, or any other machines for that matter that are out there and that would require, for example, part programs or recipes. What we will do with Foundation MOM is we make an extension and we make sure that those part programs are managed, or the recipes are managed in a central location. I only need to update one recipe once, and then I send it down to my machine when the machine needs it, because my Foundation MOM knows about that, because it's all based on the work order, so it knows when to execute which recipe and which part program. So no part programs that exist on all different machines to have tons of duplicates, everything being managed in a central location. And then the other way around, Foundation MOM is very interested in receiving lots of data from the shop floor through automatic data collection. As you can see here on the right hand side, typical purposes for that is downtime management. So getting a machine state, right? Is the machine running? Is it idle? Is it actually down? Is it faulted for whatever reason? And not actually for whatever reason, we also would like to collect reason codes, for example, all to be able to do performance analysis and to log historical data for KPIs. So if you've been asking yourself, okay, this might look good for us, but what are my benefits? This slide is answering that to a certain extent or to a certain level. I would say based on where we start at, right, is where we get our benefits first. And again, as I mentioned, our approach is to start with just the Foundation MOM, so just the framework and MOM solution put in place in the first phase. And then we already start seeing the different benefits that you can see in the blue box on the right hand side here, because we will be able to eliminate paperwork on the shop floor. We will be able to increase product quality and reduce the risk of errors. and therefore being able to reduce waste and scrap. The other thing is that with this framework MOM solution, you're actually able to basically see in real time what's going on in your plant. You can see by line and even by equipment. You can zoom in and drill down as much as you want, and you can see real time anywhere you are, whether it's just on a workstation, on a desktop, or even a tablet or your mobile phone if you just need a quick insight. And then the other topic is regulatory and traceability needs. Since Foundation MOM registers all production transactions and events, it'll be able to keep track for you of all those events and later on to report on that. So that's also, and I will come to that in a minute, obviously a pretty big benefit that automatically comes with such a Foundation MOM solution. And as you can see on the bottom, there are a couple of general benefits that we would have with any of these boxes. So even if we just start with Foundation MOM, we would be able to reduce costs and therefore improve margin, but we would also improve customer satisfaction because we keep closer eye on product quality, we keep a closer eye on on-time delivery, and then we will be able to maximize right first time because we actually have a structured way of working right now. We are able to provide standardized work instructions to the right person at the right time. That will all help us to improve going forward. So as I just mentioned, here is one of the additional benefits that is actually being enabled by Rapid MOM and its implementation. And the benefit is the fact that we're now collecting all the data and all the events happening on the shop floor in real time. And because of that, it's very easy to create all kinds of different reports based on the data that we collect, and therefore we generate tremendous visibility. And whether this is a real-time dashboard, like for example, what we see here on this screen, or it might be a report, let's say a production overview report from a previous day that you can use on the next morning during your 15-minute stand-up meeting. It's just one click of a button and you have the information that you need to go forward and to make decisions as to okay, what will be our next best step. I would like to point out two of the add-ons in a little bit more detail for Rapid MOM. I call it an add-on because, as I said, the Rapid MOM approach is based on that Foundation MOM solution, but these are two typical integrations that sometimes are included in the first phase because it is so key and because it provides so much added value, right? It provides so much benefit from the get-go that it's almost a no-brainer to put in a little bit of additional effort to already put in the link between the ERP and the Foundation MOM solution. And yeah, that is mainly in terms of the master data management, where we be able to send back and forth different types of master data or downloads, for example, the material master automatically into the Foundation MOM, and therefore are always in sync. And what the main the key thing here is that we have a single source of truth, and because through this integration we only edit the data if necessary in a single place, and then it's automatically distributed to other systems that also utilize, for example, material definitions or the bill of process definitions or anything else of master data. Could be certifications or tools, You just want to have a single source of truth. That way you're always in sync across the entire organization. If you talk about certain material characteristics are stored in one place and known by all the other systems that need to have knowledge about it. Another important add-on is actually the advanced production scheduling. And the reason that I'm addressing this one today is because we do see tremendous increase in demand for this type of solution. As I already pointed out earlier in the webinars, that today a lot of manufacturers are actually facing that their resources, and that is both, right? It's equipment, but it's also human resources. They have finite capacity. A person only works so many hours a day. The run rate of a certain machine is only that high, and that's what you have to work with. So those are constraints that can limit us, or that is just a set of input where we can work with in an advanced production scheduling solution to improve the schedule in different ways by, for example, optimize the sequence of operations and therefore being able to maximize utilization of the resources. And this is very important, and this is not something that is immediately necessary. Foundation MOM can perfectly live without advanced scheduling, but this is besides the integration with your ERP system, this is one of the I would say biggest benefits that you'd probably experience as a next step, or probably in the first subsequent phase after the initial one. So that is basically how it looks like Rapid MOM based on that foundation MOM solution, and then as building blocks we add on different types of integrations to basically make the web close the loop, right? Now how to make it happen is the question here that is kind of being answered by this slide over here. It's the rapid deployment where we'll look at. So it's based on 3 different phases prior to the actual go live, and it is a small or I would say smaller size analysis phase where we study the different benefits and then look at what is actually um, what's the size of this benefit, right? And then be able to prioritize that. We'll look at a set of use cases and validate them. So it's a predefined set of use cases that we feel is common for a lot of small and medium-sized enterprises. We validate those use cases, and we also start early on with training of some of your key users, those people that are basically going to be key in deploying this new solution in your facility, and that basically are also sometimes referred to as early adopters. So those are people that actually we work with and we partner up with, and that way early on you already take ownership of this entire engagement, of this entire journey, so to say. And we typically look at 5 to 6 weeks for this entire process, and then we get into the implementation phase, which takes about, I think, an average 12 to 15 weeks, which seems like a short implementation cycle, and I think it is relatively short compared to like traditional MES. Implementation cycles are really much longer. I wouldn't say an entire year, but get close to it. And here it's smaller because it's based on this foundation MOM solution that's already there. The aim is to really use most, if not all, of the software out of the box. Now you're asking which software? Well, it depends a little bit what comes out of the analysis phase, but because there are definitely different MES software packages out there on the market, actually a lot of different packages out there on the market, but we'll have to evaluate which package is going to fit your needs the best. And once we determine that, then we know that with this particular package, we have the highest out of the box rate of functionality that we can use straight away. And that is actually one of the things how we can shorten that implementation cycle and how we can make this a rapid deployment. Because after that, we will get into some another training, which is for the end users. So this is a different training compared to key user training, because a key user, he or she would really wouldn't say necessarily a developer, but would really be using the system as like an application manager type of role. And an end user training, that is for the operators. So those are the workforce on the floor. They have to use the new solution in their day-to-day manufacturing activities. And we have to make sure, of course, that they are well versed with the solution and what is expected from them in order to make this entire engagement a success. So that is part of the validation period, including the final approval from the customer, looking at the solution, and a readiness assessment. And after that, we're ready to go live. We would like to celebrate success as soon as possible. And from the go live, we get into a support phase, which is something that it depends a little bit, but what we typically see from our standpoint is that with a lot of our customers, we get into a service level agreement or an SLA that it then puts together, let's say, a certain set of terms and conditions how to support our customer going forward. But it really depends on the maturity of the organization, because sometimes customers would like to take on as much of the support themselves, and then we'll only stay on as a consultant. So that really depends, and that's why obviously there's also no timing on that, because that's really after the fact. So, and I'm looking at the time here, so we got about, I think, 7 minutes left, and I guess this is my last message here to you guys is about, okay, what is important to keep in mind, right? What is important in terms of strategy, I would almost say, or what should I cover in my approach for MES MOM implementation, and also in order to secure return on investment. What is really important, and that is what I'm showing on this slide, is that actually digital transformation, as you can see on the bottom, it's actually all about business transformation. We have to make sure that Rapid MOM is not being viewed as just an IT project, because it cannot be an IT project on its own. It is not. It is just part of the four different domains that we see on the left-hand side. And only if we take into account all those domains, which is technology, people, structure, and processes, only then we can ensure success. And so that's why I wanted to point out that if we put in Rapid MOM, right, which is state-of-the-art technology, but for example, our people are not ready because they haven't been trained, then it is useless, right? Or if we have trained people and we have good technology, but our processes are very immature because everything is just happening ad hoc, there is no standardization of processes, then that is something that we have to fix first. And that is what we do through consultancy, and we support in that. But then we have to work with the business first and say, okay, let's take a look at the process before we just throw another tool, IT tool at it. Let's look at how we can standardize and improve this process, and then on top of that, add technology, train our people, and make sure that we're really successful. And then the fourth domain that I didn't really address is structure, but this is very important. And structure here is all about, again, it is not an IT project. This has to be a combination of both IT and production operations. So it is IT and OT, right? It's information technology and operational technology. They have to go hand in hand. And then depending on the size of the company, this is something that might not always be applicable to small and medium-sized enterprises. It is important that if there is a corporation, if there is a corporate layer, and if there's the local plans, we have to have involvement and responsibility from both layers, because otherwise um, we won't be able to be successful down the road in the long term. So that is the main takeaway. Look at those four domains on the left-hand side. Keep in mind that only if we make sure that we're mature in all four of those, only then we will be able to get into the next level, as we can see here in the center of this slide, in order to ultimately get into a state where we're looking at continuous improvement initiatives and really Industry 4.0. All right, and with 3 minutes left, I got to the end of today's webinar. Thank you very much for attending. Really appreciate that you've taken the time to be with us this afternoon, or maybe even morning, or maybe already evening, depending on where you're at. So we open it up for questions. If you have any questions, then please go ahead and put them in the chat. So as I do not see any questions coming through, I think maybe one of the key things that I haven't really addressed, and I was expecting that a question would come through around this, is that, okay, this looks good, but what is the budget that we're looking at for this type of engagement? So from a budgetary standpoint, obviously it depends a little bit on the size and the actual requirements, if any. However, we look at probably around 200,000 to 250,000 US dollars for engineering services, and then depending a little bit on the choice of the tool ultimately that we would help you selecting, obviously, and we can recommend several different ones. Depending on that, you look at, I think, and it's a wide range between 20,000 and up to 60,000 of licensing costs. So yeah, if you put that together, then I think the higher end of the spectrum is around $300,000 for initial investment of engineering costs, including licenses. And yes, this is a considerable amount. This is a considerable investment. But at the same time, if you think about, let's say, a full-blown MES solution and full-blown, let's say, rollout, you're looking at budgets that easily exceed $1 million US, and therefore, obviously, this tremendously lowers the burden for small and medium-sized enterprises. So that is in terms of the budget. The question here, if we've implemented this or a similar solution in food and beverage or consumer goods industry. We have actually. So we've implemented this solution, even though from the get-go with some integration already in several different process industries. And right now we're working also in discrete manufacturing to implement this. Good examples, we've implemented this in a meat processing facility in the United States. We've implemented this approach into a bakery facility, an industrial bakery in Canada. And we're currently actually working on 2 facilities for a customer that actually has a location in the United States as well as in Western Europe. And at the same time, we're working with this solution also in Singapore for an aerospace customer. So there are currently a couple of things going on with this, and yeah, all very exciting, especially for I think one thing to mention is that for the bakery solution in particular, we had submitted that to Mesa for a Smart Story Awards, and it turned out that we actually won this year's Smart Story Awards from Mesa with our bakery solution. So that was pretty exciting. I had the opportunity to provide another webinar on that 2 weeks ago, so it was really great. But I see that we're 2 minutes over time right now, so if there are no further questions from the audience, then I'm actually inclined to wrap it up here. But please feel free to take a screenshot and contact me by email or give me a call, send me a text message. If you have any questions now or later today or later this week about what I explained here, or maybe some questions about things that I might have left out and that you're interested in, please don't hesitate and reach out to me. You can also find me on LinkedIn, of course, or take a look at our website, ats-global.com, for more information and a good amount of success stories as well. So with that, I would like to conclude the webcast and really appreciate everyone's time and attention today. And I hope to see everyone back again soon. You all have a great day, and please stay safe out there during this coronavirus situation. Thank you so much.